Hi, my name's Katie. I am a full-time working mum of 2 little girls, and I'm making these videos for my sister who lives on the other side of the world, so I don't have to bombard her every time we FaceTime with all the advice and things that I've learned about parenting. I'm losing my voice a bit, so sorry that the audio is a bit funny today. Hopefully I will power through. As said on a few of my videos, I am not a professional YouTuber. I'm not doing this for any money or anything. I'm just sharing the advice with my sister. So these aren't very professional, not very cool, but hopefully providing a bit of advice. So I've already done a video on shopping and what to buy, but left out baby clothes, so I could do as a separate one. So this time I'm going to talk about what baby clothes to buy, and then also focus on how to dress your baby, like what to put them in for different days, temperatures, that kind of thing. So I'm going to start off by talking about kind of the different sizes there are. So there's tiny baby. This is in the UK. I don't know what it's like in Canada, so you have to look that up. But in the UK, we have tiny baby, which is normally like premature, newborn, 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 18, 18 to 24, and then it goes 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years, etc., etc. So those are kind of the sizes. I would recommend not buying tiny baby until your baby is born. If you are, if your baby's born premature or your baby comes out and is really small, then you can go and buy tiny baby clothing, but your baby will be like, you can put them in newborn the first couple of days kind of thing until you can get hold of tiny baby. So I wouldn't bother buying tiny baby. I didn't. Both my kids were average. They were £7.4 and £7.5. Pretty average size babies. They were both about a week early, and went straight into newborn clothing. So I would recommend buying some newborn. They were then in newborn for between 2 and 3 weeks, and then went into 0 to 3 months. Some babies go straight into 0 to 3 months. Some babies are in size newborn for a month. Then like whatever amount of time they've been in newborn size sort of comes out of the 0 to 3 months. So mine were in newborn for 2 to 3 weeks, then were in 0 to 3 months until they were about 3 months old. So about 12 weeks. So all in were then kind of 9 to 10 weeks in that size, and then they go into 3 to 6 months. And mine kind of then followed the right sizing. So my first baby was a bit small, so she was probably in each size for an extra couple of weeks. Whereas my second baby is a bit bigger. She's kind of on the 65th, 70th percentile. And so she's moved out of sizes a little bit quicker. But that's to kind of give you a rough estimate. So what I would say is with newborn and 0 to 3 months, those sizes, don't worry about outfits, okay? So don't fanny around with like cute clothing. Most of the time, you're gonna be going through 2 to 3 outfits a day, or at the very least 2, because you want them in something in the day. And then what we found is quite a good signal for the change of like from day to night, whether you do a bath or whether you do a wash or whether you do something, but at that changeover. So it's really important for babies to know the difference between day and night. They don't know when they're first born. So a big part of what we definitely focused on for those first couple of weeks was getting the baby to understand the difference between day and night. So when we're talking specifically about clothing and dressing, we found that kind of at 6:30 p.m, that was going to be our changeover. So our day started at 7 a.m. and our day ended at 7 p.m. So at about 6:30 p.m, we would give her a little wash down, clean her, get her in a fresh nappy, and put her in a fresh set of clothes for the next 24-hour period. So even if she didn't necessarily need it, it was kind of a changing signal that like, okay, you're now in fresh clothes, ready for night. And then same in the morning, that we'd give her face a wash, we'd give her bum a wash, and put her in a new set of clothes ready for the day. So at a bare minimum, you're in 2, and then if they have a blowout or whatever, then you'll obviously change them. Other people would also change them if they like stick up a lot. We tried as much as possible to make sure that we had muslins everywhere, to make sure that they had stick up bibs. And so we weren't having to change whole outfits every time there was a stick up, but sometimes you will have to. But so focusing on the newborn to 0 to 3 months, the outfit I would put my babies in, whether day or night. I'm going to show you. I've got random size clothes here. This is just a box of random baby clothes. Is a vest, and I'm going to show because I don't know the difference between the names, maybe in Canada. This, which is like a little short sleeve poppy thing, and a suit. Hello, this thing. So it's got built-in feet, no built-in hands though, and it's a zip. Zip is key. Make sure when you buy these, get zips. You do not want to be faffing around with poppers when you are changing their nappy in the night or in the day. When you've got a newborn, you're going through 10 to 15 nappies a day. That will settle. That settles down to maybe 8 nappies a day when they're 2 months old, and then down until they're about 6 months old. Then they're down to maybe 4 or 5 a day, and that stays pretty consistent. My youngest one is just over 1, and she's still on about 4 or 5 nappies a day. So when they're at that early stage and you're doing nappy changes all the time, I would definitely recommend zips. It makes it much easier. So I would put, my babies were born in October and February, so obviously colder, but we had the heating on, so the house was staying around kind of 20 degrees. And that's what I would do. So I would have a short sleeve and I would have a zippy. So in terms of shopping, I had 5 short sleeve ones of these, and I had 5 long sleeve ones. I found that long sleeve ones were a good one. Basically, babies work like adults, like layers if it's colder. If it felt like the day was a bit colder and a bit chilly or whatever, I would put her in a long sleeve one of these. Or actually, if it was quite warm, I could take the suit off. So in the summer months, like when it got warmer, I could take the suit off and just have her in the long sleeve. Or like if we were up in the bathroom and it was quite warm, you take the suit off and she'd just be in the long sleeve. So I bought 5 short sleeves and 5 long sleeves. I bought 5 because in the UK, most of the places, they come in a pack of 5. That wasn't to do with any specific maths. And I had 3 suits in a newborn size and 6 suits in a 0 to 3 month size. When your baby is in the newborn size, they can wear the suits of the 0 to 3 month. They can obviously also wear the vest of the 0 to 3 months, but you don't want them like too baggy, otherwise it's gonna make them quite cold. So we had 5 of these and 5 of these in newborn, and 5 of these and 5 of these in 0 to 3 months. What's really great about the vests like this is they're super stretchy at the top and stretchy at the bottom. So the newborn size will probably last you until they're 3 months old. So you're kind of newborn and you're not 3 months. You'll have the beginning of it, some of the bits will be a bit big, and the end of that phase, some of the bits will be a bit small, but you kind of get your use out of them. That's the other advantage with the short sleeve, is if your baby's got particularly long arms or anything, then the long sleeve ones you're gonna grow out of quicker. But it was handy having both. If you're having a baby in the middle of summer, I wouldn't bother getting the long sleeve. You're probably not gonna use them. I would just get the short sleeve, and I still would get the suit. If it's very hot, like if it's over 30 degrees and you're outside, I would just have them in a vest. Obviously, you never want them in direct sunlight, and you want them in air conditioning. You don't want them overheating, obviously. But I think you're better to be in a cooler place and have them layered up than worry about anything else. But yeah, so that is all you need. Do not be faffing around with outfits until they're 3 months old. So yeah, so 5 long sleeves in newborn, 5 long sleeves in 0 to 3, 5 short sleeves in newborn, 5 short sleeves in 0 to 3. Zippy, sleepy suits, or whatever we're calling these suit things, make sure you get the ones with the feet built in. These ones are really good because they've got grippy bottoms. I feel like I should probably tell you, these are from M&S. These ones are from John Lewis. Those are my staples in the UK. You get pretty much everything from them. They're stretchy and they last super well. These have been through T-Kids. I'm getting ready to pack them up for Emily's baby number 3. Well, her baby number 1. The third baby will be wearing his clothes and they're still in great condition. So these, I got 3 in newborn and I got 6 in 0 to 3 months. That was basically all I had at that stage. By getting the footy thingies means you don't need to worry about socks. Socks on newborns is a nightmare. That is kind of in and around the house, day and night. Obviously, if you're going outside, I don't have it down here actually, but I would put maybe a jumper on. So we got bloody loads of knitted cardigans from our wonderful grandma, who was amazing. Made all these lovely little cardigans. If we were going outside and it was a bit cooler, I would put a cardigan on. And then we got a pram suit. I know, Emily, you've got one on your registry, because I would definitely recommend one as well. As I say, my babies were born in February and October, so they definitely needed a pram suit. It's like a little fluffy suit thing. They don't necessarily need to be one that has separated legs and arms, like a little effectively sleeping bag kind of style is great as well. So make sure you've got one of those. And then hats, so you want a thin, I don't think I've got them in here, a thin cotton hat for inside, for the first day or 2 of their life. We actually got given them in hospital, so we didn't bother buying any. And then obviously a winter hat if you're going to go outside, or if your baby is born in peak winter. So yeah, so that is basically what they'll wear for then. Once you go into 3 to 6 months, what we then did was, well, more outfits, but basically would have a long sleeve poppy vest and then little leggings type trouser type things, and then together that obviously makes an outfit. If you're going out of the house, would then put on like a little jumper or something. So yeah, or a cardigan, just as easy. So for 3 to 6 month size, I had 6 long sleeve. Because of the time of year, we only wore long sleeves. But if when your baby is kind of 3 to 6 months, it's going to be much warmer, I would go for short sleeves. I would still go for long trousers. I wouldn't fanny around with shorts. Shorts and kids just doesn't really work. You don't want them in too hot a location anyway. I mean, if you live in like the Caribbean, then it's obviously going to be different, and I can't really provide advice on that. But even in peak winter in the UK, I would have my kids in a short sleeve vest and trousers still. It also means that like if they're starting to roll, or at that point they're kind of commando crawling or anything, you're not worrying about their like knees on the hard floor or like soft mat or anything. And yeah, and then like you're just kind of not worrying. So that's what I would recommend. So I would say get 6 long sleeve. I mean, by that point they're not kind of going through as many outfits. You can also at a push squeeze them into some of the shorter stuff if you're going through. But like we did laundry once a week, maybe twice at an absolute push. So we didn't have loads, but I would have them in the day, and then in the night change them into a short sleeve and a suit. So for the daytime, I had 6 long sleeve things and 6 pairs of trousers. Again, mostly just because they came in packs of 6. And then I got 3 jumpers, so I had like a cardigan jumpers kind of thing. I had 3 of those because it was cooler, so I knew that they'd be in those most often. And then for nighttime, put them back in a standard. So I then had, I only had 3 short sleeve, because as long as I didn't poo in them, I would put them in the same pajamas 2 nights in a row, maybe even 3, depending on how the night was. I would still change them in the day and the night, whatever. But so I only had 3 short sleeve, but you may want to get 6 if you want, and then 3 sleep suits again. So then they would each wear them twice a night, and then do laundry once a week still. That kind of worked. You can get sleep suits like this with feet, with zips, whatever, up to 2 years old. So like those are what like a staple pajama situation is like. Once I got past 3 months and they were kind of having more consistent, like in their cot sleeping beds, we then would have short sleeve, sleep suit and sleeping bag. Again, try and find ones that have got zips, not poppers. This one's actually particularly good. These are Tommy Tippy ones. I love these ones. This has a zip at the top, so you can change the nappy in the night by just opening up the bottom, which is quite useful. So I would then get a sleeping bag. So we've done day, that's fine for 3 to 6 months. We've talked about night, and then a sleeping bag. So if it is cold at night, I would then, so you want your baby to sleep between 16 and 20 degrees is what their room should be. So if it's near the 16, I would have them in a long sleeve and a sleep suit and then a sleeping bag. I would have, so at the moment we're just going into winter, it's much colder, so I have her in a 2.5 tog sleeping bag. If it was earlier in the year, I might have a 1.5 sleeping bag. If you are in summer, what I would do is my baby would sleep in, so a kind of working down in temperature. So I would go to a 1.5 sleeping bag. I would then take off the suit and have them in a long sleeve popper vest and a 1.5 sleeping bag. So that would be my next step down. My kids will sleep in a sleeping bag all year round. I never take off the sleeping bag unless it is over 30 degrees. I find the sleeping bags are incredibly useful. It helps create, it's part of their bedtime routine. It's kind of part of their sleep situation. So I would drop the suit first. If it's then getting warmer than that, then go down to a short sleeve and the sleeping bag. And then let's say it's getting above 25 degrees, I would drop down to a 0.5 sleeping bag. So short sleeve vest, 0.5 tog sleeping bag. That is about as layered and thin I would go. I would never normally let my baby sleep in just a nappy. It's been 33 in our youngest bedroom. She's in the loft. Baking, absolutely baking hot. Still, short sleeve vest, 0.5 sleep bag, and she was fine. Not sweaty, not clammy, nothing, no change in her breathing. We would obviously check in on her a few times in the night. But we found that it was better keeping her in the sleeping bag than risk her kind of getting cold. I don't know about you guys, but like even in the peak of winter, I still want something over me, like a sheet or something. And so we found keeping her in the sleeping bag was super helpful. In terms of sleeping bags, I would just get one in each tog, and I would buy as big a size. So the Tommy Tippy ones are really good because they allow space to grow. Then normally you get a 0 to 6 months and then 6 to 18 months. So I have one in each. So depending on when baby was born, so let's take my youngest, she was born in October. So her 0 to 6 months would be her kind of winter time. So I didn't buy a 0.5 in that size, because by the time she was 6 months old, it would have been April, so we weren't ever going to need a really thin sleeping bag. So I had a 2.5 tog and a 1.5 tog in 0 to 6 months. And then from 6 to 18 months, I have one in each tog. So I have a 0.5, a 1.5 and a 2.5. And I'm actually at the moment looking and seeing if I can get a 3.5 for when we come out to Canada, because it'll be colder, obviously. And yeah, so I wouldn't bother getting sleeping bags in every sizes and every togs. Have a think about like when in the year things are going to land, and that should help with the sleeping bag situation. I would always have footsie in each sizes though, because even if it's going to be summer, Canada's obviously more consistent, but like in the UK, it can just easily be cold. So always worth having. Okay, so then when you start to get into like 6 to 9 months and above, I keep the same formula. So again, long sleeve or short sleeve vest, depending on the winter, and trousers. And then obviously like jumpers, cardies, whatever. And then whatever else you need. So like a little coat. When they start over 6 months, I would move them into a coat instead of a sleep suit, just because if they're going to be like sat up a bit more in pushchairs, I would switch to a coat and a blanket instead of a full sleep suit thing. Just gives them a bit more range of movement. So when they get to 6 to 9 months, they're not you're not having to change them as much. They're having less blowouts, though you are now feeding them food. If you're doing weaning from 6 months, which is the norm here in the UK, in which case you are going to have to change them all the bloody time if you don't get bibs. So not only did we get little neck bibs like this sort of thing, we also got full like smock things for feeding, which is like a full painting smock. It means you're not having to change them after every meal. For the small neck bibs, I would say get between 10 and 15 of these. You can put them on all the time, and you can change them throughout the day without having to change their clothes. We put these on from the beginning. They're one size fits all, which is great, and which is why I would get so many as well. You can kind of change them up all the time. And then these, we got 3, because then you've got 1 for each meal if you don't have time to like hand wash them or put them in the wash between each one. These ones are good. These are Bibido ones. They do go in the washing machine. So I would normally have 1 on for breakfast, 1 on for lunch, 1 on for dinner. And then at the end of the day, like give them all a good wipe clean. And then every couple of days, put them in the washing machine. So they would then clean properly, because they start to smell after a while. So that's bibs. So your 6 to 9 months, same sort of format. I had 6 long sleeve, 6 trousers, 3 jumpery type things, then 6 short sleeves and 3 sleep suits. Again, like depending on the size of your child, like they're never going to be like just strictly in one size. So what's handy is, you'll probably have a few long sleeves from the size below or the next size up, that if you're like in between laundry day or whatever, you can get them in, or they're still fitting in, whatever. Like I wouldn't buy too much of any one size, because they also might go through one size really quickly. But you've always got a little bit, like the bigger stuff on the size below and the smaller stuff on the next size up. So that's kind of one thing to be mindful of. So yeah, so you don't need to buy too much of each size. Then you're going into 9 to 12, similar format. I wouldn't really change anything. You're then starting to think about socks and shoes. So so from 3 months, when you start putting them in clothes in the day, I would put socks on if you're going out. If you're in the house, I wouldn't. It's really slippy, unless your house is particularly cold. But what I would try and recommend doing is getting ones have grip on the bottom. Sorry. So then they're not kind of slipping and falling everywhere. For socks, you probably need about 5 pairs at absolute max. They don't particularly get dirty, unless obviously they get dirty or something, in which case I would wear, comfortably put them in socks 2-3 days in a row until they were sort of actively dirty or anything. And then shoes wise, we got like some little pram shoes type thing for in the pushchair if it was particularly cold once she was like 6 months old, when she was in a blanket and a coat. And then once she turned 1, we started putting her in like actual little shoes. She's now like standing and walking and stuff. So she's actually like in proper shoes now that she's 1. But like, I think you don't want them in like shoes too early. But I think having something on their feet so they're not just in socks when they go out is quite useful. And so that's what I would say. So, and again, obviously, like I've said, long sleeve, but like if you're in summer months, I would say short sleeves, but I would always still recommend trousers, as I said before. When it starts to get very hot in peak summer, one thing that we found really handy is these like little romper type things. These were 3 to 6 months, just because that's the age ours were when they were in summer. But I think anything that's kind of like a little one piece, nice and thin, nice and chill, that they can wear without having to just be in like a vest, just made it feel like it was a bit more purposeful. It was then quite easy to put trousers over the top of this if it got a bit cooler. So we had a pack of 5 of these, which was super helpful for in the summer. See what other things I've just got in this random box that's next to me. And obviously you can then start, like I would say then from 6 months onwards, you can then have some more like cute outfits. So we had kind of 1, maybe 2 outfits at like 6 to 9 months, where it was like a little dress and tights, or like something a bit more special. The problem is like you want them to wear that cute outfit, they're in it for 30 seconds and then they'll poo, or they're sick up, or they'll roll in the mud or something. So I think like I mean, obviously, like if you're super into all of that, do like have them in nice outfits, dress them in whatever you want to. But I definitely found that like it was just much easier to have a bit of kind of almost a uniform, and then for something special, put her in a dress. Once they start crawling, it's really difficult to be in dresses and tights. So you kind of weirdly go through this phase where from about 9 months to 2, it's really difficult for them to be in dresses because they're trying to crawl places or they're trying to walk, but they're kind of like still half crawling times. It's really difficult. Whereas like once my older one turned 2, I then put her in dresses and things, and it's like a bit easier. So yeah, so hopefully that's really helpful in terms of what you need. I felt that wasn't super succinct and super like clear and things, but hopefully that was quite helpful in terms of what you need. In terms of kind of hats and things, most of those stuff kind of comes one size fits all, and like has stretch and things, but as much as possible buy things that have stretch or buy things in bigger sizes. So we got this in a 9 to 12 month, but had her in it from 6 months, and she was, I mean, she's obviously like, it's not winter now, or like it's coming around to winter again. She's in the next size up coat, but so she's now 1 and she's in an 18 to 24 month coat because she's a bit bigger in size. I didn't want her to grow out of it at the beginning of winter and then have to buy another coat again later in the year. Like kids don't care if they're in bigger stuff, and like she doesn't need to be able to use her hands, so the fact that they're inside her coat isn't really an issue. She's not really doing anything. So I would say obviously only buy 1 coat per winter as much as possible. And yeah, I feel like that maybe was a bit of a ramble and not super organised and clear, but I hope that answered your questions. But shout if any of that didn't make any sense. So yeah, so that then kind of takes you, so I keep the same format and everything up until the kind of 18 to 24 months kind of thing, similar things. Once our little girl was 18 months old and was going into winter again, we then did buy her separate pajamas, so like pajama top and pajama top bottom. She's kind of walking around a little bit more and like a bit more active. Would come and play in her pajamas maybe early in the morning if she'd woken up and things, or maybe in the evening wanted to be able to like run around once she'd put her pajamas on. We didn't want her in footed pajamas, so we then got her separate sets. And then the other kind of big change that happens is when you then start to potty train. We didn't potty train our oldest until she was 2.5. We waited until we knew she was 100% ready. I can do a separate video on potty training. We waited until she was 100% ready. It took 3 days, super quick, super easy, whatever. But in preparation for that, we bought everything from kind of 24 months up. We bought as separate pieces, so she was no longer in a button up at the bottom vest, so she was just in a t-shirt and trousers, or t-shirt and shorts. Again, once they hit kind of 18 months and they're walking around much more active, and it's summer, you may then want to consider shorts. But as I said before, like I think before that age I wouldn't bother. But she just had 3 pairs of shorts, and that kind of did her all summer. It's not consistently super hot here. Whereas obviously in Canada it might be different, but we had kind of a couple of light dresses and then a couple of pairs of shorts. But yeah, so once she kind of got to 24 months, so was going into age 2 to 3 clothing, we then had everything as separate, so separate t-shirt, separate trousers, separate coat. Though we did get big, like I would definitely recommend once they start walking to get a rain suit, like an all-in-one rain suit. So for our youngest, she's kind of, as I mentioned before, that she's got a coat for this winter, but she also does have a rain suit now that she's walking. And then the older one, we have her kind of like rain dungarees. And then she puts her winter coat over the top of that. So I definitely recommend that because they're going to get wet legs and it keeps them a bit warmer as well. But yeah, so separate parts, and separate pajamas as well. It's really difficult because when they get to age 2 to 3 clothes, that's such a big difference. They can grow so much in a year. But what's also really handy is like, so our older, she's a bit smaller. She's this summer wore stuff she wore last summer as well. So because things like shorts, you don't really grow out of in the same way. T-shirts still work. And she's coming up to 3, and we're very much nowhere near getting to age 3 to 4 clothing. So we're still getting by. Also, some shops will be smaller than others, so you can kind of work out which shops to get at the smaller size and which to get at the bigger size. But hopefully that kind of at least gets you shopping and caught up until, I mean, where I'm at, which is coming up to 3 years old. So hopefully that kind of does it. We've just bought our older one some mittens that have a thumb separate. Until now, she's in mittens, which is like a sock, like just all one. And she'll wear a sock, and she'll wear her mittens and a hat. The other good thing that we've got for both of them going in for this winter as well is little scarves. They're like a snood scarf or like a buff. They're great. I would definitely recommend. We had one for when we came to Canada the first time, when our older one was 11 months old. Like a little neck scarf thing is a really good idea. Make sure you get one that goes in the wash. I mean, ours was a buff, like literally the brand buff, which was great. So she could dribble on it, we could wipe her nose with it, like, you know, a bit like runny or whatever, and that was really good. So I would recommend having that. That's definitely a good item. And then we've just bought the younger ones little snow boots, which I'm very excited about. And obviously they both have snowsuits coming into winter. So I would say that like year one or like winter one, if they're under the age of like 9 months, I would just have them in a full pram suit. Like, you're not going to be getting them out and putting them in the snow and things. And then above that, so kind of going to the 9 to 12 months and above, getting a kind of full ski suit level if you're in that kind of cold. The first year we came, when our oldest was 11 months, we had her in an age 2 suit, because we really wanted to get the most of our time out of it, which is really useful because now we're coming with our second. She's just over 1, and she's much bigger. So if we'd have bought one that was the right size, we wouldn't have gotten the second year out of it. And it's fine that it was kind of a bit long. And then we've bought for the older one this year an age 3 to 4 ski suit, because she's actually going to be skiing. And so I didn't want it too big that it would be impractical, but it's still going to be quite big on her. But yeah, hopefully, as I say, that gets you to where we are now, and helps you kind of provide a bit of a blueprint on where to start for shopping. Once you start and you're getting into it, you'll kind of get the hang of it and you'll be able to adjust. Oh, the thing I would say is we bought everything up to 6 months before the baby was born, so that we could get everything out of the packets, put everything through the wash once, so it was all nice and fresh and clean, and then organised everything by size and item. If to anybody who wanted to buy us gifts, we asked them to get us things 6 to 9 months or 9 to 12 months, mostly because people want to buy you really cute outfits, and as I said, I wouldn't bother putting them in outfits too young. It's also really handy to get gifts that aren't things that you know you've got to remember to put them in or take photos. Once you get to 6 to 9 months, they're more likely to be in the outfit a bit longer, so that's what I'd recommend. And then that basically gets you to 6 months, and then as you're getting closer, you've got a bit more headspace, you're getting a bit more sleep. You can then start to think about the next sets of clothing. So I wouldn't buy too far in advance, but I would recommend having everything up until that 3 to 6 month size, so you're not having to worry kind of 2-3 months in about buying the next set of clothes. Yeah,